So, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for joining us again. Today I'm going to be doing a video about my top 5 items of fishing tackle currently available on the UK market. So, to be honest, this list is really difficult to put together because I think we use that many products throughout our fishing that really improve our fishing vastly, that it's really difficult to choose between and pinpoint those products that you think make the most difference to your fishing and the things that you enjoy using the most. So for me, I've just purely gone with my favourite top 5 items. So, starting with number 5. The reason this product made it onto my list is because it's something that I sometimes overlook. And it's something that, when I think about it, it does an awful lot of the work in my feeder fishing. And that product is the Daiwa TDR reel. So the Daiwa TDR reel, the new version, I only purchased them around about the beginning of last year. And I honestly can't believe the difference between the new ones and the old version. I think that Daiwa have done a fantastic job updating this reel. It looks absolutely stunning, as you can see from these pictures. I mean, it really is a gorgeous piece of kit. It really does work well, and its functionality is simply incredible. I've used lots and lots of different reels in the past, and I can honestly say that these TDRs have really made a big difference to my fishing. So the reason I like these reels is I use these reels on my 11-foot and 12-foot feeder rods. And those are the feeder rods that predominantly I'm using the most. So I'm using those for chucking sort of anywhere between 30 and sort of 45 metres, something like that. And I do that more often at more venues than I do anything else. So, for example, long chucks, sort of 70, 80 metres, I'm not doing that very often. So for me, a more budget reel like the Horizon, something like that, around the £100 mark, is absolutely fine, because I'm not going to be using that reel all that many times every year. So for me, it makes absolute sense to get a slightly cheaper reel. I mean, the Horizons, believe you me, they could have been on this list because they really are awesome reels. But the reason the TDR's there is because it's the one I use the most, and it's the one that makes the most difference to my fishing. So I use these on those rods because they're doing the most work and because I think they're the best power horse on the reel market. I honestly do think that these reels will wind in big heavy feeders all day long without letting you down. And I've sort of tried and tested that with the old TDRs and the new ones, and they've proven themselves time and time again to me. They're absolutely superb in all weather conditions. You don't have any problem with water ingress. You don't have any problems with the reels grinding. I'm sure that they've got an end of life at some point, but for me personally, I haven't reached that with any TDR reel yet. I've never managed to strip a TDR reel on big carp, which I have managed to do with cheaper reels. I really do think that these reels are bomb-proof, and that's the reason that they're number 5 on my top 5 list. Yeah, the Daiwa TDR, what more can be said, really? They really are fantastic reels, really, really good. So moving on, number 4 on my list of my top 5 items of fishing tackle is the Matrix XS Slim rods. So, as you've probably gathered from watching my fishing channel, that I really do like Matrix products. But the reason that the Matrix rods have made it onto my list is a similar reason to why I've bought Horizon reels. So the way I'd explain it is, previously I used to use Daiwa tournament rods, and I think they're absolutely wonderful rods. They're probably the best made rods out there. I don't think there's many other manufacturers that can compete with the quality of Daiwa in their high-end rods. But the problem with them for me is that they're the sort of £300 to £360 bracket, and I think that's just slightly above most people's price range. And for me, using those rods, I was only able to have a limited number of rods in the range. So I'd struggle sometimes and try and adapt and use the wrong rod for the wrong situation, really, and it didn't really work for me. Whereas switching to matrix rods, which are more like the £100 to sort of £170, £180 mark, I've been able to have essentially 2 or 3 rods for the price of one tournament rod. And what that's meant is I'm able to have many more rods to cover many more situations. And do you know what? When I first used these XS Slim rods, I thought I was going to be majorly disappointed moving from Daiwa tournament rods down to matrix rods at a much lower price bracket. But honestly, I'm not disappointed. I absolutely adore these Matrix XS Slim rods. I've used them from everything to landing big carp up to £20, right down to your sort of roach fishing on natural reservoirs, and that's predominantly what I use them for the most. The selection of tips that you can get for them, so ½ ounce, 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce and 2 ounce, that covers absolutely everything that I need to do. The action in these rods is absolutely subliminal. It's unbelievable, the action is. They're such soft rods, but yet they've got a backbone that can sort of push you out that little bit further in distance as well. So they've just literally got everything. I think in Les Thompson's days at Matrix, I think he helped develop these rods. And knowing sort of what sort of fishing Les does and all the rest of it, I know that he's sort of thought about his natural venue fishing places like Patsell Park that I absolutely love fishing. So they've just suited my fishing down to the ground, and they're a purpose-made rod for what I do. So it's really just absolutely wonderful. I've really loved using them rods, and the bonus is now I've literally got a rod to cover every situation that I could ever encounter. I have got some XD rods that go up to do my sort of longer distance work, but the XS Slim, I mean, they cover, I'd say 90% of all my natural venue fishing, and even some of the commercial fishing, although I've just bought the carp rods, the Matrix carp rods as well. So to be honest, you know, I'll probably not use the XS Slim rods for the carp fishing now, because they're not really purpose built for that. Although having done it, I know that they can handle the job just well. So yeah, that's the reason they're number 4 on my list. Really, it's about efficiency in your angling, having a rod to cover every option, and being able to own more rods for a sort of similar value that you'd own a lot less rods with something like Daiwa tournament rods. And again, not slating Daiwa tournament rods at all, because they are wonderful. But these XS Slims, for the price bracket, they're just out of this world. And I don't know of another rod at the moment. Probably the Preston Superior rods. I think they're sort of similar price range, and I have to say they're just as sort of good. But yeah, I mean, I haven't used the Superior rod, so I can't really comment, but they certainly look as nice as the Matrix ones do, and I'd say they're probably comparable, those two rods, those two ranges. So, number 3 on my list is my trusty Matrix platform. So I've actually got the old style Matrix platform, so it's the Mark 1 platform that Matrix did, and to be honest, I haven't felt a need to change to the Mark 2, even though I've purchased the new seat box. I found that platform is just absolutely bulletproof. The thing for me, I'm a big guy. I need something that's really strong and that's just not going to let me down in any situation. I used that platform last year on the River Trent at Catton, and I waded out quite far into quite deep water with that platform, and it didn't let me down. Even though I got a relatively soft bottom, I managed to get the legs down in the silt, and I managed to get myself nice and comfortable, and it's just a fantastic platform. I use it for wading out to waist height on Stowe Pool. I've done that in the past, and it's been quality for doing that sort of fishing. And just to prove its sort of strength and durability, I've actually set up the platform yesterday, just out in the garden, to its maximum limit, more or less, which I've not done before. I've not took it quite that high, but I thought I'd just do it as a tester. So I think I've got a bit of a video here for that. And basically what you can see here is that the platform is absolutely solid. Even at that sort of height, it's still managing. I got up on there. I actually used step ladders to get up on there, but it was still strong enough to support my weight and the weight of my box. And I felt really comfortable once I was up there. Yes, okay, at its highest level, it wobbles that little bit more getting onto it, but I didn't feel unconfident with it at all. I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, very, very happy with that Matrix platform. The legs are quite long on it as well compared to some other platforms. So I've used Penrose platforms in the past. They're a little bit smaller and they've also got shorter legs. But the bonus with the Matrix platform is that it's essentially a skeleton platform, so it's not a solid one piece, which means that you can pack it away into this nice carry-all, and that you can just throw it in the back of your car and then set it up when you get there. And it's literally like, I think, eight screws in total, so 8 hand screws. You've got the 4 on the platform itself and then the 4 on the legs, and you get yourself nice and level, and it's just the perfect platform. I can't ask for anything more. One more thing I'll just mention on this platform, it's quite interesting, is that when Matrix released the new seat box, the XR36 Pro, there was a lot of speculation about whether the box fitted onto the old platform, and I think the answer is it doesn't. It wasn't made to fit onto that platform, and hence why they've released the Mark II to fit the new box. But what I will say is, you can see here, I've got no problems at all getting mine. What I've actually done is just turn the legs so the screws are on the outside of the box, and you just jiggle it a little bit to get it on into the runners, but it fits perfectly fine, and I haven't had any problems with it. There is also, I've took a little video here of the sort of slot mechanism on the front. There is a potential to extend that slot mechanism slightly, and that could help you extend it just that little bit outwards. I haven't bothered trying that, to be honest, because I just can't see the need. But I guess you could do that if you wanted to get a slightly bigger box, or if you'd got another box that was bigger than that one. I don't know if Reeve boxes are bigger or whatever, then I guess you could just slightly drill that slot out with a Dremel or a drill and just extend it. There's a couple that probably might be 10mm there that you've got to play with. So yeah, you could do that. But as I say, I haven't felt the need to do it. So yeah, excellent platform. Great for big guys like me and anybody else that's fishing. So yeah, I'd highly recommend the Matrix platform Mark 1. I'm guessing the Mark II is even better, but like I say, I haven't got one, so I shan't comment on that one. In number 2, so building up to that all-important top 1, what's top on my list. So number 2 is my new seat box, which I've done a review on the channel, so I won't dwell too much about on this subject. But the XR36 Pro, what an awesome seat box that is from Matrix. I think you'll agree. The design's absolutely stunning. It's a fantastic seat box. It really is solid. It supports, you know, big guys like myself, so, you know, I can't fault it. And I think that seat box is going to last me for many years to come. I've got no intention of changing that seat box now. And I know that Matrix are pretty good with spares and things like that. If I ever have any problems, they don't tend to change the stacker units and things like that. I've got lots of rig trays, as you can see just behind me, so I don't intend to change from that box now for a while. So that's made it on to number 2. I think more than anything with that product, it's the design. I think they've broken the seat box market with the design. The functionality, yeah, okay, Preston make boxes that function just as nice as that box does. But for me, this one's just that little bit nicer looking. I think the hydroforming on the frame itself has made a massive difference there. And I hope to see more seat box manufacturers in the future trying to use the same technology and the same manufacturing techniques. Myself sort of working in manufacturing, and also my background's in product design, which is what I did my degree in. These sorts of things attract my eye a little bit more than maybe your regular angler. So it is more about the look of the product, the aesthetics, but also having something that fundamentally functions well on the bank under any conditions, because I do fish into some quite challenging conditions, wading out in water, fishing in high winds, feeder fishing, them sorts of things. So yeah, I've got probably a slightly different perspective on products to what most other people would have. So yeah, that's my number 2. So the all-important number 1. What is my favourite item of fishing tackle currently available on the UK market? Well, I think you'll be surprised to hear that it's not a Matrix product, as many people will probably have been expecting, but in fact it is a Drennan product. So my number 1 favourite product is the Drennan Acolyte Pro carp pole, which was released I think early last year when I got it. And what a pole, it's just unbelievable, and it had to be top of my list, I think, hands down. I've just enjoyed using it so much, and it's made a real big difference to my pole fishing. I don't actually do an awful lot of pole fishing, but when I do, I like to be comfortable, and I like to use a pole that's responsive, that's strong, and that can cope with anything I'm going to throw at it, really. Whether that's popping down to a local commercial on a match, or going out on natural venues. And for me, weighing it up, obviously there's 2 Drennan Acolyte Pro poles available. You've got the Acolyte Pro and the Acolyte Pro Carp. It had to be the Carp because I think it's just that little bit more robust and that little bit more friendly to fishing natural venues, which people might find a bit strange if they predominantly fish carp venues or commercials. They might not understand why natural venue anglers wouldn't want the lighter pole, the stiffer pole, that sort of thing. But fishing on natural venues, the conditions can often be quite challenging, especially when you're wading out into the water on gravelly bottoms, if you've got high banks behind you like you have at Patsell Park and things like that. So for me, it's really, really critical to have a pole that can withstand whatever you're going to throw at it. And that's the reason I've chose the carp pole. So my previous pole was also the Drennan Acolyte carp pole, the first one that they made, the black edition, if you like. And that was absolutely the same. It was an excellent pole. But when I upgraded, I was a bit sceptical as to whether I was going to get the benefit or not. And absolutely I have. The Acolyte Pro carp is even better. Weighing this pole up against other poles on the market are just a couple of things that I really like about Drennan and that I have to stress, because they are predominantly the reason that I've chosen Drennan over other manufacturers. So firstly, the top kits are slightly longer than your average pole top kits. I'm not exactly sure on your average length top kit. I think they're probably around about 2.4 metres, something like that. Well, these top kits are basically longer. Now, if you're fishing a lot of shallow fishing, a lot of commercials, things like that, then that might not be what you want. But fishing natural venues, I like it because you've just got that extra little bit of handle on the fish, and you've got an extra bit of length on your top kit for when you're putting your rigs on and things like that. So you end up fishing sort of top 2 plus 1 rather than top 4s and top 5s and top 6s deep, you know. So that extra bit of length in the top kit just helps in a lot of situations. So that's one reason. The other reason is that the true length of the pole is 16 metres. Now, if you don't sort of measure your pole very often, then I'd urge you to set it up and put a tape measure down it and actually measure its physical length. Now, if you're using one of the Drennan Acolyte poles, then I can more or less guarantee you that they're going to be 16 metres. They are exactly what they say on the tin. It's a 16 metre pole, it measures 16 metres. You might be surprised to find that with some competitors, not all of them, but some other tackle manufacturers that sell a 16 metre pole, it's quite a bit shorter than 16 metres. Now, obviously, the way tackle manufacturers get round this is they put these short sections into the top kit when you buy the pole that you can't get any elastic through unless you're fishing a number 1 or number 2 on a canal. So that little bit that a lot of people take out of their poles and chuck in the bin or stick in the garage, that's the bit that makes up the extra length. So however long that is, normally that will be the difference between your pole and 16 metres. So normally that might not matter, but for me, fishing on natural venues, it matters because I want that extra length. And also, if you go on commercials, sometimes you'll notice that you might be fishing, say, 14.5 metres, and the guy next to you is fishing 14.5 metres, but in actual fact, he's actually only fishing about 14 metres, and which might push him to put an extra section on to get to an island or something like that, whereas you can fish with one less section, and it just gives you those little tweaks and little bonuses. And like you'll probably hear off many sort of anglers, it's all about these small percentages and adding up to catch you extra fish. And I think that makes a big difference, having a true 16 metre pole. So for that reason, and for those little couple of perks, that's why the Drennan Acolyte Carp Pro is my #1 piece of fishing tackle at the moment. So again, like I've said so many times before, that everybody's really eager to get back out on the bank. And I'm quite disappointed to see some reports from friends that people have sent me that there are people out at fisheries and on banks. And do you know what? Don't do it. It's really not worth it. Follow the government's advice, follow the guidance, stay at home, stay safe, protect your families, protect the people around you. And when we're allowed that little bit of relaxed rules and things like that, then we'll all get back out on the bank, of course, and we'll maintain social distancing, and we'll be much safer in our approach to our sport. But it's really important that we protect those people around us. So please don't go fishing. Wait for the government advice. I think there's an announcement coming this Sunday. So fingers crossed, things might change, things might improve. Okay, thanks for watching. If you like the channel, click subscribe and share the channel with your friends.